forensic biologist Ted Bill with the ATF that he conducted a DNA comparison of swabs of the pistol to that of the defendant. You are going to hear that the DNA profile of the swabs of the pistol are consistent to that of the defendant. You are also going to hear that there was a firearm examination done of this firearm. And you are going to hear from firearm tool mark examiner Vanna Kelly with the ATF, where she was sent the 3 casings that were found on scene, and then conducted test fires of the ZEV OZ 9mm that was sent to her, and compared those 3 casings to the test fires that came from that ZEV OZ 9mm. You are going to hear that the casings that are found on the scene were fired by this ZEV OZ 9mm pistol. Now, jumping back to the timeline, November 19th, 2021. You are going to hear around 9 a.m., 90 Cameron Glen Drive in Sandy Springs, Georgia. You are going to hear about a 911 call of a burglary in progress. You are going to hear that Sandy Springs police officers arrive to that residence and they find the defendant inside the home, upstairs in this home. You are going to hear that the officers enter that home and command the defendant to come down from the upstairs. You are going to watch the body camera footage of this interaction with the defendant. After several minutes of commanding him to come down, the defendant would make his way down the staircase, dressed fully in camouflage, several layers with a mask and a fishing hat. You will then watch as the defendant, as soon as he hits that bottom step, attacks one of the officers there. You will see and watch that the defendant then stabs the Sandy Springs sergeant in the back of the neck multiple times. It is at this point that officers then shoot the defendant twice. They shoot him in the neck, in the right upper chest. You will watch the defendant be I want to talk about the 3 main pieces of evidence that you're going to hear about, and really they're just categories of evidence. Those 3 pieces of evidence are digital evidence, statements, and forensic evidence. What I mean by digital evidence is really the evidence that puts the timeline together. The surrounding surveillance videos of homes surrounding the Hicks and the Lanz residence that show the defendant's arrival, the departure, and then in addition to the defendant's phone extraction being placed in airplane mode. You're also going to hear about Justin and Amber's phone extraction, which show their last known activities. Now, statements. The defendant's statements to law enforcement, Scott Lanz's statement to law enforcement, and Teresa Lanz's statements to law enforcement. And last, the forensic evidence. This is the defendant's gun. You're going to hear that he is the rightful owner of that gun. He had bought that gun. You're going to hear that the defendant's DNA is on that gun. And the casings that are recovered on scene were fired from that gun. Now, some expectations as we move through this week. There's no video of the murder itself. There was no video on the living room of where this murder occurred. But with the surveillance videos and the circumstantial evidence, we were able to provide that timeline to the court. There are 2 missing casings from the crime scene, because you will hear from Dr. Ashraff that they were shot. There were 5 shots, but there are 2 missing casings. As I previously stated, the surveillance video in the front of the Hicks household is incredibly difficult to see because of the dark nature. However, Detective Smith will show and point where to look at the appropriate times. There is no perfect timeline. There never is. But we will present a timeline for the court to make the findings that we need to make. The defendant's statements during these interviews are odd at times, and you will not hear a specific motive in this case. Now, as the court knows, my duty is that the burden is on us. It's always on us. The burden of proof is always on the state to prove every criminal case as to each essential element of the crime charge beyond reasonable doubt, and that never shifts. Now, your duty this week is to listen to the evidence and ascertain the truth. What I mean by that is that I ask the court to look at the 5 C's. That's the corroboration of the evidence, consistencies and inconsistencies in the evidence, the credibility of the witnesses as they take the witness stand, and the conduct of the parties. And last, just common sense. At the end of the evidence, we will ask that you return a verdict that speaks the truth. There is only one truth in this case, and that truth is that the defendant is guilty to all counts of this indictment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Aiden Horowitz. Attorney Barrett, would you like to make your opening statement at this point?
Sure.